To make any kind of real considerable wealth in today's day and age, you need to have as much leverage as humanly possible. And leverage is essentially when you're putting one unit of effort of energy in and you're getting multiple higher out. So for example, I put one thing in and I get 10 things out instead of putting 10 things in and getting 10 things out. An example of something that wouldn't be leverage is like if you charge somebody for an hour of your time. If you're charging hourly to work with you, that is not very leverage because sure, you could make, let's say $5,000 an hour, but still you're putting one unit of hour in and you're getting a $1 amount out. You're getting $5,000, right? Compare that to something where if you were to package up, then you could sell that for 10, 15, 20, 30, $50,000, and it could maybe only take you 2 hours because you have the course, you have team members that help implement it, et cetera, and you're making, anywhere from 3 to 10 times that amount of money. So leverage is something that I'm obsessed with in every aspect of my life, and it's actually something I'm hearing more and more people talk about whenever I speak with my clients or whenever I'm at events and I'm speaking with other entrepreneurs. They're just like, how do I add more leverage? Because leverage doesn't always just mean more money. It also means more time back for you. And it also means more profit a lot of times, right? If typically it takes you 10 people to deliver this result for somebody and you're able to bring it down to 5 people because you added leverage, then you're able to maybe double the amount of profit that you're taking home. And Naval Ravikant, he says that there's really 4 types of leverage. There is code, that's like software. There is capital, that's like using money. There is media or content, so that's like this video right now. And then there is the one that I'm going to talk about in this video that I used to be probably the worst at, and I've started to do it more and more, and I've seen really amazing results even in the very beginning of using it, and that's collaboration, right? And that's when you are working with other people to help reach your goals. And most people think of collaboration as like employees, and a lot of times that's what I think Naval even references that when he talks about collaboration. It's like if you were to say, hey, I'll pay you this amount of money, let's say for easy numbers, I'm going to pay you $100 to do this work and I'm going to charge for it $200. Well, I'm netting $100 and I don't have to do any of the work. That's really what a lot of people are talking about in collaboration. But what I'm noticing myself is that the other element of collaboration is collaborating with other people, right? And this is something that I personally have kind of remove myself from. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Ravi. I'm the founder of Scaling with Systems, where we help people build businesses that serve them instead of them serving it. And what I have done, I have just been obsessed over the past few years with creating systems and optimizing my time and my life so much that I really don't expose myself to anything that I don't want to do or anything that's somewhat inconvenience outside the normal everyday stuff that you, obviously I do cold plunges and I work out and I do hard stuff in business, but some of the examples I'm going to give here, going to this networking party, I didn't really want to go to it, but some of the things that happened when I decided to do that for that collaboration aspect of it. And I'm real extreme on some of this stuff. For example, I hire a house manager to literally charge my toothbrush for me, so I don't have to charge my toothbrush. So just to try to give you the level of extreme that I'm at. And you may not be at that level of extreme, but I have noticed more and more in today's day and age where you can literally wake up in the morning, you can walk to your desk, you can work from home, you can have a coffee machine at your house or have Uber Eats deliver your coffee. You can work all day by yourself on your computer, or maybe you have team members helping you out. And then you can shoot content without talking to anybody. You just film this content right here. I'm in this hotel room filming this content. Then I can order Uber Eats for lunch. Then I can go back to work. Then I can order more Uber Eats for dinner, or I can eat downstairs in my lobby. I can watch a few episodes of a show. I can work out at my gym in my condo, and then I can go to bed. And my total exposure to other people for potential of collaboration is absolutely zero, right? Nobody there am I giving myself the potential to collaborate. And, for the longest time, that's fine. That was fine by me because, quite frankly, my business does well. I feel I'm happy. I have I have success in multiple areas of my life, the way that I define it. But, I think that I was missing out on that collaboration aspect of leverage. I had all the software, we use all the software in our business to systemize and automate things. I have team members for that level of collaboration. We create content like media here. I spend money to make money, on ads. I put $1 in and get $5 out. But I was missing this other level of collaboration, which is with other people, right? And I just kind of want to walk through. I wrote down here some of the things that beginning this year, what I decided to do, one of my own kind of personal goals was essentially just to start networking more, just to start putting myself in situations where I can collaborate with other people in this space, because collaboration is huge. Because if you really think about it, other people have spent their entire lives building audiences and businesses and skill sets, et cetera, that you could never really tap into or get access to, or it'd take you 10 times longer. And so then when you collaborate with them, you can get almost instant access to all that stuff. So, if I were to, let's say, get on a podcast with somebody and they have an audience of 500,000 YouTube subscribers, a portion of those subscribers are going to come over to my YouTube channel, check out my stuff, maybe even buy my stuff. And it would have been really difficult for me to reach those people originally just by me working by myself, right? So that level of collaboration I've really missed out on. This year I was like, okay, I'm going to try to network more. I want to become like this hub of activity where a lot of people know me in multiple different industries, and I'm going to kind of put myself out of my comfort zone a little bit so that I am collaborating with things, even if it costs me time, money, energy, effort. And like right now, I am currently in San Diego. That's why I'm in a hotel room, different from most of my videos. And I just was on a speaking tour in Las Vegas, which I'm going to cover here in a moment. I'm on an events tour in San Diego. I'm speaking at multiple events here, and I'm gone from home for like 8 days. And I don't really love it that much, in the sense that like I miss my girlfriend, I miss my routines, I miss my setup, all of that stuff. But some of the stuff that's happened to me here has been pretty nuts, just from me putting myself out there and exposing myself to this level of collaboration. So I just wrote down some things I kind of want to walk through this flow of some of the things that have happened to me since the beginning of the year. So number one is, for those of you that don't know Ryan Pineda, he's like a pretty big guy in the real estate / entrepreneur space. And we've been like somewhat acquaintances, friend, just because we run some of the similar circles for a few years now. And he recently called me like at the beginning of the year or the very end of last year or something like that. And he wanted to ask me my advice about some marketing systems and strategy, stuff like that. So I ended up having like an hour and a half long call with him. And traditionally, right, like I charge people for my time. And so traditionally, if I get phone calls, like I never answer any phone calls ever. And I would have been like, oh, you need to pay me this money, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, you know what? Here's a potential opportunity for collaboration. So I just, with no ask, no nothing on it, I just gave him like an hour, just like hit him with so much value over the hour. And then at the end of that, he had said, hey, would you want to pop on my podcast with me? Would you want to come to Vegas and get on a podcast with me? And I know for a fact that he also charges people to come on his podcast. So like, it was a pretty big opportunity, and he has a really great audience that he's been building for years now. And so, first of all, if I said no to the first call, then I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be invited to the podcast. And then I almost said no to the podcast, because I don't do a lot of, or I used to not do a lot of speaking in podcasts, because I was like, oh, let me just stay in my room and film the content, because I can reach just as many people as if I did the podcast. But I said yes, because I'm kind of in this new flow of collaboration. So I said, yeah, let me go on the podcast. So then I knew that I was coming up to this podcast here. So then I posted on my Instagram story, I said, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas to speak on Ryan's podcast. Does anybody else like know any good podcasts that I could get on while I'm over there, so I can kind of hit a few person with one stone? And then Sean Kelly, who has like 11 million followers on Instagram, he ended up sending me a message. Either he followed me or somebody knew of us in connection. I forget what it was. He was like, hey man, we'd love to have you on the podcast as well. I was like, oh wow, that's pretty awesome. That's another huge podcast, a lot of views. And once again, that happened because I said yes to the Ryan's podcast and yes to that call that Ryan gave me. And so then I went to Las Vegas, and when I got on Ryan's podcast, I ended up like stalking with him, hanging out with him, and we had like a 2-hour and 10-minute long podcast. And I just like dropped the sauce. I gave all the stuff that we were doing, and he invited me, I think it was even on the podcast, to go speak at his next WealthCon. And this WealthCon is a pretty big event. I think it's like 1,000 or a few thousand people that he hosts in Vegas, with all these people there, and they have huge keynote speakers. And he invited me to go be a speaker at it, right? And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't said yes to the original phone call and got out of my comfort zone and like try to optimize for collaboration. And then I went to through another form of collaboration. About a few weeks before I left for Las Vegas, somebody reached out to me as like a podcast booking agent, and they said, would you want to interview this person on my own YouTube channel? And I don't usually do that. I just like to do videos of myself and like teaching, but I was like, yeah, sure, let me do this. Once again, going back to collaboration. And so it was might be Dan Martell. I forgot who it was. And let's say it was Dan. It might not have been Dan. Somebody else might have hit me up. But anyway, the point being, I said yes. And when I said yes to, let's say it was Dan, I ended up having Dan come on my podcast, and then Dan and I ended up hitting it off. I read his book, Buy Back Your Time, which was great. Him and I hit it off really well. And then he invited me out to dinner that night. Once again, I was already going to have dinner with my girlfriend, and I said, hey baby, do you mind if I move our dinner tomorrow night so that I could go out with him because she knows I'm trying to like collaborate more. And she's like, yeah. So I go to this dinner, you know, Dan's talking to these people over here and I know nobody else at this dinner. And so it's a little like awkward for me. But then I just strike up the conversation with the guy next to me. And it turns out that like, he's like, what do you do? I talked to him and he's like, oh, that's cool. I was like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm the CEO of this like a little protein company. I was like, oh, it's like protein company. And he's like, oh, it's called Truvani, which I won't get up and do it. But literally right here, I have my Truvani to go packs. I go through 2 bags of protein from them on a weekly basis. I'm like a fangirl of Truvani. I'm not an affiliate or anything, but I just love it and how quality and clean the protein is. And so I ended up sitting next to this guy and we talked the entire night long. And it turns out that he used to be in like the e-learning coaching consulting space online. And now they're running this huge, massive company looking to exit in the next few years, potentially. And so he had done a similar journey of what I'm like looking to do as well. And so I was like, dude, can we grab some dinner sometime? I'd love to chat with you. And so we ended up getting dinner together and talking. And I was able to pick his brain for a while about like his journey and running a business that size and how we transitioned out of like the coaching consulting world into this business. And all that happened because I said yes originally, but I'm not done yet, right? Because I had this person's phone number that introduced me to Dan or somebody like this podcast booking agent when I was going to Vegas. I said, hey, do you know anybody else that would want me on their podcast? And so she ended up saying, oh yeah, there's this guy named Dylan Vanas. Do you know of him? And I knew of Dylan. And it turns out that when I got there, Dylan actually had been following my stuff for years. And so she connected us together. Dylan was like, yeah, I'd love to have you on the show. I go to Dylan's show, had a great time there. And then I'm like, hey, Dylan, do you know anybody else that I could potentially be like on a podcast with? He's like, yeah, I know this other guy. His name's Andrew. He has like 500,000 subs on YouTube. Would you want to? So I looked at it and every view he gets is like 70,000 views, 100,000 views, and he barely does any podcasts. So then I end up saying, but once again, I have like 3 hours until I have to be at the airport for my flight. And I was like, you know what, whatever. Yeah, I'll say yes. And because I'm trying to collaborate, right? And so then I go to this guy's house and it's like 20 minutes away and you know, we had never met before and I was trying not to like come out like I'm trying to just take his audience from him. So I was trying to give value and like we ended up hitting it off and that was another 2-hour long podcast. And then after the podcast was done, he was like, dude, this was awesome. I'd love to, I think you and I are a lot similar. We should grab dinner. I'll come to Miami. So that was another great relationship that I made there as well. And like, that was an example of collaboration. All of this is happening while I'm in Vegas. Then I come to San Diego and I texted, I'm here for speaking at the social media marketing world. And I looked at the speaker list and there was a few guys I knew on there. One of them being Sean Cannell, the founder of Think Media. They have a pretty huge YouTube channel. And I had interviewed Sean on my own podcast. And so once again, I'm like in my zone, I'm working, I'm like doing my own thing. And I was like, you know what, I should reach out to Sean and I should try to just collaborate, just to talk to him and catch up and kind of keep that relationship going. So I sent him a text message and he's like, yeah, man, I have a little bit of time before dinner. I was like, yeah, come over to my place where I'm staying. We end up going downstairs. We have like a 45-minute conversation. What's working with his stuff? What's working with my stuff? It was so good catching up. And then he's like, hey, dude, I'd love to, because I was telling them a little bit about what we're launching with the self-sustaining funnel, which is like the trust in today's world is like the lowest it's been in the last 40 years, according to the General Social Survey, and how trust is required for sales. And he's like, dude, stop talking about that right now. He's like, come on my podcast tomorrow and you can talk about all this. So now Sean's invited me on his podcast, right? And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't invite him out to just have a drink. We don't drink, so we were just drinking Topo Chico, but have a drink and chill and talk for a little bit. So now he's invited me on his podcast, which I'm going to in like an hour from now, right? Right after that, I was tired. It's been a long day. I was working, I was speaking, I was ready to go to bed. But then I got a message to go to this software that I'm an affiliate of, and this kind of networking party that they were doing here in San Diego. And I was like, I don't know, like pretty tired. I want to get up early in the morning. I want to do my thing. But once again, everything had been working. I'm like documenting all this stuff that's going on for this collaboration. I was like, all right, you know what? I'll do it. So I said yes. I walked over to the place. I went upstairs and like, once again, you know, I did another video on I don't drink alcohol. This is this is not me drinking any of this stuff when I'm going to these like rooftop bars. I go there. I meet like the founders of the company are there. We hit it off and catch up. And then like the guys, the head of all these departments were there. And they were talking to me and they're kind of whining and dining me because they wanted to be like a bigger affiliate. And so then they started making offers to me about like special gigs, like special deals they could do if I was like doing specific. I kind of want to respect their privacy, so I won't go too in deep with it, but they're giving me opportunities that I never would have gotten if I had like maybe done a Zoom call with them, or if I had just like never, like if I just stayed a regular member or affiliate of theirs. They were like giving me these things that I had never really thought was even a possibility. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I'd love to do that. And then kind of in this collaboration sense, I was like, hey, you know, they have a big event event every year. I was like, hey, I would, this is totally separate, but I would love to potentially speak at one of your events that you guys do, because that would be huge for my brand. And they're like, yeah, we'll see what we can do. And they gave me the application. I filled that out. Who knows if that's going to happen or not, but I don't think that it's definitely going to have a better chance of me doing it by meeting them in person and connecting and collaborating than it would if I was just like sending a random application online. And just to kind of drive this point home one more time, my content lately, I've really been putting out a little bit more of this raw style content and just like Loom videos of us showing us like everything that we learned scaling to multiple 8 figures online. And it's not like crazy growth on the algorithm, but I know that a lot of really great people are liking it and sharing it with other people. And so there's this guy his name's Edward, that when I was creating this content, I put out a video the other day and I got this direct message on Instagram, and he's like, hey man, I just want to let you know, I've been following your YouTube videos and they are amazing. Like, you should be charging $50,000 for these YouTube videos. And he said, I just want to let you know that I'm in Boca and I live in Miami. He's like, I'm in Boca, let me know if you ever want to link up. And once again, I usually would be like, I would have never said yes to somebody to go, like, I've never meant to go out to dinner with them. Like, I got better stuff to do. I'm trying to grow my business. But I was like, yeah, let's, I think I reached out to him. I think he just told me he had a thing in Boca, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, would you want to grab some dinner sometime? And he had 1 million followers on Instagram. And so I was like, you want to grab some dinner sometime? And he said, yeah. So we ended up going to dinner at this place, had an awesome dinner, like 3-hour dinner. And, it turns out that he was doing he had already done some of the things that I was looking to do in our business. And so we ended up masterminding for 3 hours. Like, I was showing him some of the stuff that we were doing. He's showing me some of the stuff that he's doing. And I learned so much from that. Then I left, and he shared me on his story, and that got me a bunch of followers immediately, like right off of the bat of that. And we're probably gonna do some business a little bit later on. I'm gonna have him inside of Scaling School, our new product, which you can get to. It's everything I've learned, going from 0 to 25 million plus online for $97 a month. That's the first link in the description down below. All of this has happened, almost everything I've told you has happened from like one phone call that I said yes to, that I usually would have just sent a voicemail, right? Or I've been like, hey, I don't like calls, just text me and ask me your question. So why am I making this video, right? Because if you made it and sat with me into this long, either you're crazy or you just like the sound of my voice, or you actually found a little bit of value in this. It's because I'm making this video for there's like this, I'm part of it as well, but there's this like thing out there that's like, say no to everything, focus, head down, grind, like just do your own thing, blah, 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 like sit in a room, cave, work. And I do think that that's super beneficial. And, I also believe that a lot of these opportunities that I've gotten recently wouldn't have even been opportunities if I didn't do all of that stuff originally. But just like anything else, I think there's another end of that spectrum. I think it requires moderation. I think you can go too deep in that, where you're literally just sitting in a room and by yourself and like, oh, I don't need social media, I don't need to communicate, I can just build everything on my own. And the answer is you probably can, but you could go a lot faster if you collaborate with other people and you leverage their audiences, their knowledge, their experience, et cetera, et cetera. So this video is to like maybe me to remind myself in the future when it's much easier just to say no and stay at home and stay in my office and keep on working. And it's also to other people in there that are watching this that are like, how do I collaborate with more? I get this message all the time. How do I mastermind? How do I get around other people like you, et cetera, et cetera? And I just kind of walk you through the entire process. Like that's all you do. It's nothing special. You just start to say yes. You just start to say yes. Quality people, you provide them value, and the most important thing is you say yes. You go out there and you do things. I guess if I had to simplify this whole thing down to 2 words, do stuff, right? It's do stuff. That's what I had to kind of boil this whole thing down to. So there's one part that I forgot to mention about all of this, which was that speaking of like the collaboration, while I'm in San Diego, I could have just worked out at my gym here at the hotel that I'm staying at. They have a really nice gym, really nice spa, but I was like, let me go out and see other human beings. And I go to the local gym here in San Diego called Fits, and I'm stretching and going over to this one stretch machine, and there's this guy that's like sitting there on his phone. I was like, hey man, do you mind real quick if I just work in with you on this stretch machine? And he's like, holy crap, you're Ravi. Like, I follow you online. I see your content. Like, I love your stuff. Like, you're an inspiration for me, which of course I was like super flattered by. I was like, oh, what do you do? And it turns out that he runs the paid media for a company that does like multiple 9 figures a year in sales in the coaching, consulting, e-learning space. And I'll be respectful of him and his privacy and that other company. But they're spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars a day in ad spend in their business. And obviously we run a bunch of ads. I wouldn't have even had that conversation in the first place, which made me feel good. But then going further for that collaboration thing, I was like, hey man, why don't we like maybe meet up and grab some dinner or a bite or just like a coffee later on. So we ended up sitting down and we talked for like 2 or 3 hours, and like I got to learn all about their funnels and how they're doing ads and how they set specific stuff up and like all that. It was such a unique opportunity that I would never have done if I not only not said yes to all the original stuff I'm talking about here, but also on top of that, if I had not, walked up to this random guy, gone to the gym instead of working out here, then I started the conversation, and then invited him out to like coffee and stuff like that, which I typically would have never done. So anyway, a little bit different than my other videos, but wanted to just rant to you guys for this. I hope you guys found value. If you did, make sure to like and hit the subscribe button, comment down below and let me know. And also, like I said, we just released our new product, Scaling School, depending on when you're watching this, and it's everything we've learned going from 0 to 25 million online for $97 a month with 100% money back guarantee. So you can go in the first description down below and check that out. Peace.